Hello everyone and welcome to my channel once again. So a lot of people have been asking me to finally do an update to my season 4 Flay Barbarian build, which when comparing the same level of items was the hardest hitting and the strongest Barbarian build in the world that helped me reach T150 as the first Barbarian ever. So I hope that gives the build some credibility, even though there will be no gameplay right now. I'm saying it at the beginning of the video because I know there will be a lot of comments about it. But yeah, like content creation, unfortunately isn't really my job, and I only play in my free time. I gather all the items, you know, and everything on my own. There really is no help. Not much help. A lot of the clan members are helping me. I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, it's not like I log in day one and people just start giving me gold and items to appear on stream, right? So please keep that in mind. Be patient with me. Doing so many builds within just one season when, as I said, I have to farm everything by myself. You know, sometimes I'm playing an hour a day, sometimes more. You know, it's a bit difficult. So I hope at least the season 4 achievements as well as the build give me some credibility that I know what I'm doing when it comes to Flay and Barbarian in general. So what is this build about? This build is focusing on pushing T150 pit for the achievement as well as T8 hordes. Is it the best build for T8 hordes? No. Why? Because the AoE, even though it has quite a lot of it, is still, you know, worse than Whirlwind. Where it excels though is single target. Like we can still reach, you know, hundreds of millions, even billions of DPS easily, even with the Gushing Wounds nerf, because unlike Rend, for example, or the Bleed Whirlwind, Flay actually got some new items that gave it buff. So it kind of made up for that huge nerf. And we'll have a look at that right now. Now, let's look at the items. I also listed, you know, where the GAs should be, where the Masterworks should be. I limit all of my items to 2 GAs per item, and Uber uniques for 0. Okay, obviously wherever there's the, you know, Masterwork, if you get an Uber with a GA, awesome, especially like the CDR Harlequin Crest, that's the best you can get, or Crit Strike Chance Starless Skies. You know, these are the most beneficial GAs on these Uber uniques. But yeah, I try to limit it to 1 or 2 GAs, because 3 GA items, that's unattainable for 99.8% all the player base, right? So I don't want to do that. I don't want to show you something that you will simply not get unless you're really lucky, or you just have your mafia that gives you the items or gets you the gold, or, you know, whatever shady deals you do to get those items. I listed also, you know, or like I made notes. I really love the Mobalytics UI. I'm really grateful to the guys that you know, offered me to join their content creators program. I'm really used to this now, and I really love it. The strength, the weaknesses, you know, all of these extra notes, I hope will help you if you forget something from the video, or if you're not watching it at all, which most of you don't. After 30 seconds, there's only around 35% people left. So good for the 35% people if they can survive my yapping, because then they understand the builds. But yeah, these notes definitely help. Nothing has changed here in terms of skills. Same thing as season 4. Flay, Rupture, you know, the Shouts, and Steel Grasp. The technique is two-handed axe, and our weapon of choice is polearm, because we are also using the executioner glyph for increased damage, and it now gives us vulnerable, so we can reach the cap easier, etc. So so it's really the best weapon we can use. So it's Harlequin Crest with CDR, Rage of Harrogate, super important. It got the buff. It's absolutely bonkers now, give us just flat crit strike chance, which works for the gushing wounds. So we easily reach 100% crit strike chance, like absolutely easily. You do need this with a greater affix though. If you want to play triple DPS amulet, I will get to that later, but yeah, if you want triple DPS amulet, which is the best thing you can do, of course, because we can reach the 100 without crit strike chance on the amulet, then you need GA crit strike chance on the Rage of Harrogate. Then we are playing Fists of Fate. Here you want GA on the crit strike chance for sure, and then super high rolls on the lucky hit chance and the lucky hit to crowd control enemies. Preferably you want GA there as well, at least on the lucky hit chance, or you know, either one of those. You want lucky hit chance and the other at least super high roll. Okay, and of course you want 300% unique effect or close to it, you know, like 275, 280 and higher. If you get really good GAs, really good rolls, you should be happy. We are actually masterworking lucky hit chance here, because we already reached the 100% cap. We don't need to masterwork crit strike chance anymore. Then on our pants, strength, GA resistances to all elements and ranks to Flay. We want to pop everything into ranks to Flay. Because the two GAs that I chose here are ranks to Flay and resistance to all elements, so that we can reach the 70%, because we are not playing Tyrell, right? So it's not as easy as with Whirlwind. You just use one item and you got it. The tempers here are Raid Leader and Crowd Control Duration. The Crowd Control Duration will not only help us stagger the bosses faster, because it gives us more stagger, it will also help us have more CCs for longer duration at the same time, you know, on the enemy, which will, once I get there, increase our damage exponentially. It's gonna be such a huge DPS increase that it's really important, and in my opinion definitely better than just going for some, you know, a random CC on the pants and then on the boots. I would go for a double crowd control duration, because a lot of the CC we have from our build itself, and the rest we will get from Fists of Fate. But if you really want, there is the option to go for Immobilize and Freeze. Those are the two I would go for, or Freeze and Stun. Freeze and Stun actually is what I would go for, because Stun is more stagger against the bosses. It's hard CC versus soft CC. So that's for pants. For boots, here, ranks to Warcry, movement speed, resistances to all elements. Here, you can go without the GA on the resistances to elements. You need the max roll, but you don't need the GA. So that will definitely save you some gold if you're trying to buy them off, and it will make it easier to find these. Movement speed, GA there, this is what I recommend. We are also playing Rallying Cry, so that will give us also movement speed, because this is an all-arounder. Right? This is a build that is also good for T8 hordes, and you need to move really fast so that you can play the events there. You don't really just want to be, you know, sluggish and standing in the middle with 100 movement speed when you can get close to 200 easily as a barbarian. So movement speed I definitely recommend here. It also helps avoiding the abilities of bosses in the pit, because now, even though they got their HP lowered, they got the debuffs as the tormented bosses, so their damage will go up and eventually they will one-shot you. So having the extra movement speed to be able to avoid the mechanics is super strong. Again, crowd control duration and movement speed temper. Then for our bludgeoning weapon, we are going for strength, damage over time, and max life. Now this might surprise a lot of people. We are not taking the crit strike damage affix. We are going for damage over time. And why? Because when you are playing Flay Rupture build, 99% of your damage is the bleed. It's not the direct damage. And crit strike damage is no longer a multiplicative, but it's only an additive. So going for damage over time gives you more additives. So if you go for crit strike damage, you can for sure if you find that weapon. But if you want to super maximize and squeeze out another like 100 additives, to increase your bleed damage and rupture damage, then damage over time there for sure. And the crit strike damage we get as the temper. We are also going for Flay duration, of course, that increases the damage of our single target. But we are masterworking strength. Okay, the reason we are masterworking strength, you can go like 2 strength, 1 Flay duration, totally okay, or like a mix of these. But the more strength we have, the more AoE damage we have, because Flay duration only increases the damage of, well, Flay, but strength also increases the damage of our rupture. So we go from the damage buff to 1 ability, to a damage buff to 2 abilities, and a huge buff at that for rupture, because for every 50 strength, you get another, a multiplicative damage to the rupture explosion. So that's super important for our AoE damage. And we are also playing percentage strength on our amulet, right? It's triple DPS amulet, so it all goes well, really. The synergy is absolutely insane. So a must-have to have GA on strength on pretty much all of your items, or all stats if Shard of Varietal, for example, has all stats. So you want that to reach the highest damage possible. Then Shard of Varietal here, of course, we need it to be 200%. Increased damage. We need the GA to ranks to basic skills, or at least the highest roll. Okay, at least the highest roll. If you have non-GA Varietal, or like only all stats GA Varietal with 200, you are Gucci. It's a superb item. Okay, even without the GA all stats, we can reach all of the Paragon points, which I super min-max the build, right? So if you get GA all stats on the Shard of Varietal, we precisely reach even the 6 board rare nodes without using Grandfather for all stats, but you need the GA for that. But you can make up for that by moving some points around in the Paragon board, right? So 200% here on the Shard of Varietal, the most important thing, and then max rolls on everything. But if you get GA, then you want it to be the basic skill and all stats, right? So that's one of the massive buffs that Flay got. Then our other dual wield, we are actually using an axe. Again, people might be wondering why. Well, first of all, the expertise of axe is a little bit better in my opinion than swords, because yeah, we don't really need the extra fury, and once again, it gives us damage over time, right? It gives us more additives than crit strike damage, so it's more value. Again, same stats, strength, damage over time, max life. I suggest getting GAs on the DPS affixes. If you get on max life, it will boost your survivability, which is good, but the DPS affixes are, in my opinion, the most important, especially for hordes. Right? There's not really anything that will kill you if you're running with basically more than 30,000 HP and some good DR on your items on Paragon Board, you're already immortal. So we don't really need that much max life. Again, tempers are crit strike damage and Flay duration. And then finally our polearm, same affixes, same tempers, and the creeping death aspect. And oh my god, I'll get back to it later. I was so caught up in talking about all of the weapons that I forgot about the aspects. So creeping death aspect, that's the bread and butter of this build, because the creeping death aspect for each different crowd control effect gives us on the two-hander 40% X in DPS, okay? Which is absolutely insane. Against staggered bosses, it is 80%, as well as against unstoppable enemies. So monstrous buff to our damage over time effects, and it synergizes so well with Fists of Fate and the build itself, because Flay as well as Rupture have a lucky hit of 50%. Because I have on my Fist of Fate GA on the lucky hit chance, I have 116% lucky hit on the Flay and a Rupture What that means that in AoE, when you pop Rupture, not only you will reduce all of the cooldowns of all your other abilities to 0 every single time you use Rupture in AoE, the same way it worked in Season 4. You will also spread CCs everywhere. Bambillions of CCs everywhere. So we will get insane, absolutely insane benefit from this. Taunt is considered CC. Then as you can see, we have concussive strikes aspect, which not only gives us the 20% X multiplier against dazed enemies, which are for example staggered bosses, but it also gives us the chance to daze enemies. So we got Taunt, we got Daze from Harmstring, we got Slow when the enemies are healthy, and yeah, then we got Fists of Fate, just, you know, shooting CCs everywhere thanks to our massive lucky hit and no cooldown on all of our abilities. In AoE, you will just be pressing Rupture and your shouts over and over, and everything will be CC'd. So yeah, this is absolutely insane. Thanks to this, we can kind of make up for the loss of DPS through Gushing Wounds nerf. Aspect on the bludgeoning weapon, of course, aspect of Moonrise, we are increasing all the basic damage, you know, that we can. Then we have Starless Skies. Here you want to masterwork on the crit strike chance, thanks to Shard of Veratiel, which makes our Flay cost a resource. We can now use Starless Skies, and that gives us insane damage buff. It also has absolutely bonkers stats like the lucky hit chance, further increasing our chance to spread the CCs, to reduce the cooldowns through Rage of Harrogate. That's also why on boots we no longer have Hectic. We don't need it. The lucky hit chance is so insane that the Rage of Harrogate is non-stop reducing all of our cooldowns. Okay, so we no longer need Hectic thanks to that. Then on our other ring, crit strike chance, vulnerable GA here. It's important if you want to reach precise, absolutely 0.001% precise, 45% hemorrhage legendary note in our Paragon board for the multiplier. So definitely get GA here. If you don't have it, you don't have to worry about it that much, because you can always make up for that with gems. Okay, we do a mix in our weaponry of green and blue gems for crit strike damage and vulnerable. Then of course in our armor we are going for amethyst, again same as season 4, for maximizing the strength, maximizing the damage of our build. Here you want to double masterwork on the damage while berserking, and you also want in max roll, or like super close to max roll. That will give you again precise 300 for the 30% X from our Blood Rage note. As I said, this is super min max to the peak build, so yeah, it needs some precisions, you know. Bleed builds are like that. If you want to squeeze out the most out of them, you need super good items. And then on our amulet, finally, we have triple DPS. We have percentage strength, ranks to cut to the bone, ranks to counter offensive. We are fortified at all times. Ranks cut to the bone, you know, self-explanatory. Strength, self-explanatory, I think, as well. I already talked about strength a lot. Going for Warcry cooldown reduction, tempers on both the amulet and the ring. Of course, we want 100% uptime on that because we are maxing out on it, right? So it's a huge buff to our damage, and just a normal damage while berserking here. Again, should be highest roll, okay? Should be the highest roll, or like, you know, 98% if you want to reach the cap precisely. So these are the uniques, these are the skills that we have assigned, that we are using, and the skill tree is, you know, maxing out on Flay, dumping everything in it. Then we go down, we are taking all the defensive options here. We are only taking 2 points in Martial Vigor, though. We are taking Rallying Cry, Enhanced Rallying Cry for Unstoppable. We are not playing Iron Skin here. It is not necessary. Even in Season 4, we could already heal a lot or enough through our shouts, and now it's basically even better. We are even going for the raid leader, so the healing is higher, and yeah, it's just absolutely bonkers. 2 points in outburst and toughest nails, because we want all enemies, even those attacking us from afar, to be bleeding, to get our DR from bleeding enemies. But most of all, we are playing the revenge glyph, which will further increase our damage, so we want these thorns. We used to have thorns through Harrogate, but it no longer gives us thorns, so this is what we need. Then challenging shout, enhanced challenging shout for extra survivability, of course. Then dumping all the points into Warcry and going for Mighty Warcry to have 45. 3 points in Booming Voice for the duration, and then Raid Leader. As I said, we will have 6% healing per shout, you know, every second. It's absolutely bonkers, healing us 6% for our shouts per second. So that's yeah, I just love it, especially for the hordes. We don't need any other source of healing. You can, even with just 3%, overheal the hordes. So yeah, Iron Skin, nah, not anymore. Then 3 point into aggressive resistance for more DR. Here taking all of the multipliers for more damage. Of course taking Rupture and Warrior's Rupture for the attack speed. Here the explosion that will absolutely annihilate the whole map. From our gear and the elixir, we already reached 100% attack speed from cap 1. This is cap 2, so we are 140% attack speed. Absolutely bonkers. Like, compared to season 4, where we were attacking pretty much like this with our polearm, you are now like so yeah, pretty much way stronger in this aspect right now. Hamstring, cut to the bone, steel grasp for vulnerable if we need it, but we really don't, because Flay is Flay in single target is refreshing vulnerable all the time. But if in AoE you see the vulnerable dropping before you kill the enemies, which yeah, in AoE in super high pits will happen, then keep replying it with steel grasp. It also gives us berserking if you know, fall out of berserking, but that only happens against the bosses, right? Because in AoE, as I said, we have 0 CDs. Everything is zeroed. You rupture, everything gets refreshed. Counter-offensive, 4 more damage. Heavy-handed, you know, not as valuable as it was before, but still good increase to our damage. And then of course gushing wounds, because this is full bleed build. When we look at the Paragon board, it's basically identical to my season 4. I moved maybe like 3-4 points because yeah, we didn't need to overcap on vulnerable, or like we don't want to overcap on vulnerable while we were stacking it the last season. So yeah, so we are going for exploit for the precise cap with vulnerable. Also, you know, especially in hordes, to just one-shot the enemies. We don't have to worry about steel grasp to apply vulnerable. We just rupture, you know, all the enemies that weren't hit yet get vulnerable, they get burned down, goodbye, easy. Then we are going up, taking Carnage. Here we are using the Revenge Glyph to boost these nodes for extra DR, extra berserking, and 8% multiplicative damage when we are being hit, you know, through thorns, which will help especially in super high pits or against the bosses, which are hitting you enough to stack that 8%. Then we are going up, taking Bonebreaker, the Rev Glyph. Yeah, sure, it's still just an additive, but it's one of the highest scaling glyphs, you know, in the game. So taking in here just gives us nice extra damage. Then we are going up, going right, I mean, to the Blood Rage node, taking all of the HP, all of the berserking, and Martial Glyph here. to boost all of the nodes. Here you can see I got all the 3 DRs against bleeding enemies. Also, we have some extra damage to bleeding enemies, so it is really boosting our damage a lot, like a lot. And in single target, it kind of helps if we need to reduce the cooldowns. If we need to reduce the cooldowns on our steel grass, for example, to you know, to drag the enemies to the boss if it spawns some minions, to make sure that we have berserking up at all times, you know. And if you have it with Marshall, you are also ready in case, just in case, raid leader is not enough in super high push for you to just slot in Iron Skin. You just slot in Iron Skin over Rallying Cry, change the might aspect from the pants to the Iron Skin aspect, and you're done. You're done. Super easy, you know, no reworking Paragon boards, no nothing. This is an all-arounder build. All-arounder build, works for everything, you know. You don't have to change, anything. Then we are going right again, taking Decimator and Might, because this is two-hander build, so we want that you know, extra 8% multiplicative damage. Of course, the legendary node as well, giving us a lot of damage. And then we are ending the board with my favorite hemorrhage board. Once again, you know, actually playing the hemorrhage board, not just the legendary node. It's really a huge waste, not to play it. So definitely do it like that, because you get extra DR from bleeding enemies, extra, you know, damage over times, damage to bleeding enemies, and then of course ending with the hemorrhage node, giving us 45% X through our vulnerable. So this is it for the build. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you know, understand how it works. If you're coming back you know, from my season 4 build and you were waiting for this update, I hope this makes you happy. If you haven't seen that build, if you haven't seen me playing season 4, I suggest you do that till I managed to farm all the items. Unfortunately, I bricked all of my weapons. I couldn't get Shard of the Red Hill. So as much as I would love to do a gameplay of this build, and I definitely plan on doing so, I cannot do it right now. So yeah, as I said, I hope my season 4 pushes, builds, etc. give this build enough credibility for you to, you know, make this build and wait for me to create the gameplay just a little bit longer. So thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Ciao.